David, extremely busy photographer, extremely successful photographer, spent a lot of time overseas, New York, and I believe this is your first time back for a long while. What made you want to get involved with kids?
Many different things. The fact it's to do with kids, anything I can do to help kids is important, because it's tomorrow, it's the future. The fact that it's East End, Glasgow, brings it really home to me, because I don't matter, you know, it doesn't matter where you go, and I don't know why, but when you're from the East End, and I think it's the same with London or anything like that, you still feel you're an East Ender, you still got the association of where you're brought up and what you've got. The East End is very important to me, as kids are. And as I say, you know, it's like, if I can help in any way, then, you know, it's where I'm from, you know, and it involves something I care about, which is children.
What was your earliest recollection of growing up in the East End? Was it happy upbringing?
You know what, I only have fond memories. I've only got happy memories of the East End. The East End, we still talk about it, my friends and I, because I still see the boys from the East End, and we still talk about it. We had the best upbringing, because it was almost like a little village, you know, the whole thing. Where I grew up was it was a great neighbourhood. It was Ridgery. Primarily I was adopted, and my first couple of years were spent in Provan Mill in Greenside Street, and the prefabs, and they were knocking the prefabs down and building Ridgery, so a lot of families were moving. It was the same with the Gorbals. People were moving for the Gorbals, and they were getting, this was before Cumbernauld and Newtowns, you know, they were going to Carntine, Ridgery. These neighbourhoods were building new houses. So we came there with lots of different families. So there was a whole community of people who just arrived in this one neighbourhood at the one time. And I think that formed a wee bond. We had people come up for the Carlton, we had people for, as I say, the Gallagate, Black Hill, certain bits of that were getting knocked down. So it was a new neighbourhood, a new area within this, our little scheme bit. So my upbringing was glorious. Do you know what I mean? It was had a brilliant, you know, we could climb walls, we could do things, you could do what kids could do. All the doors were open, neighbours always looked out for each other, and that's got an old romantic thing to it, but it's true. Do you know what I mean? If I could go into a neighbour's door and vice versa. And I think it gave me a reality to a lot of things now that I don't think I ever missed anything, because I had everything, i.e. family, friends. We were never poor, but we were no stretch of imagination wealthy, you know what I mean?
Yeah. How much do you think your upbringing as a child influences the rest of your life then?
I think it does. I think it does with everybody. I think it's hugely important. I still believe you can change. You can always change, you know what I mean? So I know a lot of poor souls who have... I once was involved in a project in orphanages out in Romania. I made a documentary out there. And the stuff these kids were living in was brutal. But some of them, you can see them when they get older and they've developed and they've changed and they've got away from it. So my whole upbringing in East End was idyllic, you know what I mean? It was idyllic.
David, you talked about community, growing up in the community you grew up in, and I mean, know now that we've got these fragmented communities. So how important do you think it is that organisations like With Kids are actually trying to replace that community?
I think that's hugely important. As I say, my upbringing, we were fortunate. The East End had a lot more communities. The world was a smaller place. You know, for me to get into the city centre, it was 2 buses, things like this. Now everything's immediate. And I think one of the important things for any kid is growing up in an environment that's secure and having a community around them. I was fortunate, we had that in East End, and I think I'm right in saying, you know, that's broken down over the years. And it's one of the highlights that With Kids is doing. It's creating communities, it's giving them some kind of stability, it's giving them, to a certain extent, the missing father, it's giving them the missing mother, you know, it's giving them that whole thing where they feel they're part of a family, you know, and I think that's the beauty. It's creating, to me, it was a community. This is also a community, you know, because it is somewhere where they can come in and just, you know what it is, sometimes just to listen, sometimes just to get a wee bit of reassurance. sometimes to find the answers to questions without directly asking the question. You know, just by talking to someone else you can get an answer. And I think we all had that within a community, and that community gives you security. And I think that is the essence and importance of with kids, is to give the kids somewhere that's part of them, it's their community. You know, they're part of this, you know, it doesn't exist without them. You know?
And I suppose it gives them the opportunity to develop, you know, whatever skills or raw skills are in there. How did you get into photography? How did you first realise that you had an aptitude for it?
I don't know if this is just my mind, but the only recollection I can have of photography when I was younger was I couldn't pronounce it. I couldn't say it. I couldn't say photographer. And I've got dyslexia as well. I don't know how severe it is. I was never really tested, but I always remember saying photographer. And that was the only knowledge I ever had of photography. Photography came to me later in life, and this is what I would like to install in any kids. Your life is never over till the lights go out. Do you know what I mean? And I became a photographer at 29, 30, you know. I had no inclination and no real interest in it before then. My wife's a school teacher, and fortunately she could, you know, afford that we could keep the house going and do all that when I went to study photography. But the point of that is there's so many kids now at 14, 15, 16 think they've got no future. And that is the thing that hurts me more than anything, that they've always got a future. They can change it, they can change tomorrow, they can change today. They can't change yesterday, that's gone. So they can either have that as a bear in their back or use it as an excuse, and some do use it as an excuse. Or they can put it behind them and go, you know what, today's a new day and I'm going to start, and tomorrow's a new start as well. And they can change it. So, you know, if they're in a dead-end job and they want to do something different, they've got to want to do it. And I think, again, places like this, like with kids, it's installing into kids that, you know what, you can make a difference. You are important, because so many of them won't hear that, you know. It does involve, and one of the things I want to go over to kids is it does involve hard work, and it involves commitment, and it involves sacrifice. But I've often found the rewards are always worth it, you know.
That was going to be my next question. What advice would you give kids growing up in terms of succeeding? How, you know, if you've got a talent, how do you
I think the first thing, I wouldn't want to fool the kids. I think you have to sort of find your own measure of success. And success to me, to be honest, I still don't know what success is. I look at people who, for instance, my wife, who's taught for 30 years, she used to teach in East End for years, she's in Maryhill now, and she's had 6 days off sick in 30 years. She has changed numerous lives. That to me is success. Success is contentment. Success is not wealth. Success is not reaching a point you can't go any further. I think success is doing the best you can do in anything you do. If you're going to paint a wall, make sure that's the best wall that's ever been painted and you're successful. If you're going to walk down the street and you see somebody looking no happy, say hello to them. They might smile back at you. You've been successful, haven't they? So success for me is putting out an energy, because that feeds others. It's not, you know, success is not, I'd like to think, not measured in wealth. I'd like to think it's not measured in fame. There's so many successful people.
Would you say then it's about achieving your goal?
Yeah, I think it is, and also believing, you know, that you can do things, and not being scared of failure. I can't remember who the quote was. It might have been Churchill or somebody, or Einstein, somebody a lot more intelligent than me. It was either Einstein or Churchill, and it was fail, fail and fail again, but next time fail better. Something like that, and I think you've got to do that. Don't be scared of failure, because you'll learn from it. And I think that's one of the things that is very much an East End thing, or an underprivileged neighbourhood thing, or area thing, is too many people are scared of losing face. You know, and they see that as some kind of failure. If they try something and it doesn't work out, they worry what their friends are going to say. But you know what, you tried.
Yeah.
And as long as you try, you will succeed at one point.
And I suppose with kids is giving kids the confidence to go and try.
Well, the way I would like to put it to kids as well is, you know, the day you're born, you don't get up and start walking right away. You crawl. Some people don't, you know, you try and get up, you fall down. What do? You get back up. And that's the same in life. It's just we forget that we're capable of doing that. And, you know, there will be hiccups. There will be a lot of hard work. But you can make a difference. And that difference can be really small in your life, but can be really huge in someone else's life. So you can do something, everything has a kick-on effect. And as I say, success for me is making people smile, making others' days happier, fixing something, saving up to buy something, completing getting your first wage packet. Just setting yourself little goals, and it doesn't matter how small the goals are. By setting goals, you can make a difference, and not only other people, to yourself. And I think that whole thing kicks on, you know, and that's where success. Any success I've had has been largely due to other people, because other people have made sacrifices for me to go and do it. My daughter, my wife, my friends, my family, they've helped me along the road. And the success I've got, if I do have success, is not just down to me, but it's also involved me making sacrifices and
hard work.
Yeah, hard work, basically hard work. And I don't want, that's the one thing that's really important to me. I don't want kids to think it's easy. It's not easy, but they are, and every single one of them is capable of doing it. And somebody told me years ago, when you can't be bothered, that's when to go and do it. Because if you can break that mentality, then you'll achieve it.
Yeah.
You know, it's too easy sometimes. And who are you kidding? You're kidding yourself, you know, if you think, I can't be bored doing that, or you know what, I can't be bored doing this and I can't be bored doing that. But generally you find if you do it when you can't be bothered, you actually get a real sense of achievement when you've done something, and you just go, you know what, I've done that, that's magic.